All right.
Chord has been hitted.
3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, to the iTunes podcast, the
Hello,
cheesiest show
everyone.
on the internet. Today, we actually have a special guest with us. Everyone, welcome Ashley. Woo!
Hello.
Applause.
Glad to have you here, Ashley.
Yeah, our friend Ashley. And today, we're going to talk about, whatchamacallit. Today we're going to talk about everyday struggles, what kind of resources out there, our experiences with them, just what it's like to live our daily lives.
Yeah.
So the first question to start us right off is, what is the biggest struggles we face in today's world? Ashley, since you're our guest, why don't you start us off?
I feel like my biggest struggle, basically, is to actually go out and do things with people, especially with my family and friends, because I always feel like I'm going to be judged for being out during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I accidentally forget my mask at work, I'm like, oh crap, where's my face mask at? And I always have to ask people, and if I go in a place, I always feel like people are judging me. Why aren't you wearing your mask? And another thing is working is, because so many people are not wanting to come into work during the pandemic, they either quit their job or just don't show up to an interview or anything. There was a point where I'd work 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, without even getting a day off because people did not want to show up to work.
See, for me, it's a little bit... Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Joe. I cut you off.
It's fine. So does that mean, you have to do even more work based on there?
Yes.
You have to do more work for them?
Yes, I would have to basically do my job plus theirs. Sometimes I would work probably 12 to 13 hour shifts with only one break. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do that, so I can't really complain about that. So,
But,
it's a struggle for me.
fun.
Yeah, it's a struggle for me because I'm over here used to working 8 or 9 hour shifts, and then they're like, hey, this person called out. Can you stay over and help us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know... Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, you go ahead.
I know for me, it's also really frustrating because, for me, it's actually a lack of hours after Christmas is trying to find hours to support myself and finding that balance because I have a disability, so it's learning the balance between how much I can handle and being able to also support myself on my own. I've had people quit, there's people quit too, and I've had to cover for their shifts, and that makes it kind of hard because it's just unexpected too, so I understand.
Yeah. And as someone who's still in school, it's definitely harder. It's definitely harder for just for the pandemic and school. It just makes it even harder. But yeah.
Yeah, and wearing a mask too. I find it really frustrating that, obviously as staff when I'm working, I have my mask on all the time, but I work at a grocery store, and there'll be people that'll come in, and the Karens that won't even wear a mask in the middle of a pandemic when we're on lockdown. And it's extremely frustrating.
And then there's people that come into the grocery store whenever they think they have COVID, but they're still not wearing a mask and stuff like that.
Oh man, yeah, that happens up in Canada too. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I also work in a grocery store. And we have a cut fruit section, and people will be over there looking at the cut fruit, just coughing all over it, touching it, and it's just you're not thinking about, hey, I may possibly have COVID, so why am I touching and coughing all over stuff that someone else will be touching?
Yeah,
possibly contaminating it.
Yeah, it's truly frustrating.
Yeah.
Ashley, why does it feel like the world is against us? Do you feel as though you're fighting against the world sometimes?
I do, and the way I see it is, I think it's mainly older people that I feel like I'm fighting against. And it's because they were raised different from us, and so they don't understand. They see the world differently from how we see it as people our age or younger, and they just think we're being little crybabies about it.
Even though it's like a super deadly virus that could kill you.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and that's just the reality of our perspectives are different. They have seen different things than us, but I think a lot of times people our age, of the younger generation, the Zoomers as we call it, we are not as naive as perhaps some generations may think.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be extremely sad because it means that naivety can be good sometimes in that I guess it can help us to, how would I word this? Not be stressing as much as we are, but ultimately we know about the world. We know what the world is like. And that can ultimately also have a detrimental effect on our mental health.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like younger people and like I would say like more of the older crowd see it as, oh, we're all crying about a small virus that isn't big, but this virus spreads more than the flu.
And then
yeah. Go ahead, Ash. It's fine.
And another thing that makes me feel like the world's against me is a lot of the older people don't believe that some of the younger generations have anxiety, depression, and all this kind of stuff. Like, one of my parents had literally told me that depression is a bunch of horse crap.
That's extremely frustrating, and I cannot express how far from reality that is. Depression, anxiety, mental illness is incredibly real. It's incredibly...
Yeah,
it's incredibly real.
It definitely is.
I could go off on a rant, truly, about that.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
What resources do we wish were out there to help us? Joe, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so what resources do we wish out there would help us? Mostly, of course, we would want, like hospitals and just places, or if we're talking about the virus type of struggles, of course we're talking about that. If we're talking about like, personal struggles or mental struggles, there's, of course, hotlines, friends, and just people that you can talk to, and just, just generally people you can talk to, basically, yeah.
I would really like to see some more accessible, like non-emergent resources out there. Particularly when in regards to mental health, there is the emergency of people who are in urgent need that they can go into a hospital. But as far as outpatient resources, I would like to see more. I would like to see more supports. That's something that I've definitely noticed with my own personal journey, is trying to find those resources is way more difficult than it should be, frankly.
Yeah.
Ashley, what about you?
I honestly believe the same as you two. And I think that, we have the crisis hotlines and everything, but I wish there was places more local that we could go to, like, I don't know how to explain it better, but we could go to a place where we can just get the help we need, like a therapist, but basically away from, like, if you're having a crappy household, you can get away from your crappy household for a while until you don't feel that you need to be away from it anymore.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool resource, somewhere that, like, a temporary housing, that would be, like, that sort of resource, especially for the youth, would be ultimately really helpful.
But that would cost a lot of, property.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not entirely realistic, but you never know what the future can bring.
Yeah, but they could also be funded by like people like,
Yeah, that's-
who fund it. Yeah.
Yeah, or sponsored, or
Yeah.
one or another. Who knows?
One way or another.
One way or another. That's how you get copyrighted.
That's how we get striked.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, Vex. Way to take the podcast out.
I'm sorry. Okay. What resources are there to assist us, though? Like, what is out there for us?
Vex, you can start with this one.
I would say that there's a lot of helplines for sure. There's, like, if you're in, like I said, in urgent need, there are hospitals, there are psych, like, wards within the hospitals. There are outpatient, there are counseling services, there are ones with sliding scales, there are psychiatric. I know obviously up in Canada, a lot of things are free, but that ultimately means that the waiting list for them is substantial.
Yeah. And like it's the same for like America too, like where like there is hotlines, but there's not like places that you could go to where they actually like assist you. I mean, yeah, of course there's mental hospitals and hospitals, but like there's no like place that you can just go into without like, you know.
There's no halfway between 0 and 100, I
Yeah.
would say.
And then if you do go to a mental hospital, people automatically just think you're crazy and all that.
Yeah. And I've personally been in hospital a couple of times, and it's not like that. It really isn't. It's very much a place where sick people go, but it's not because you're crazy. It's because it's for a lot of reasons for a lot of different people, but it is something that's necessary and needed. And for those of you that have been in hospital or maybe in the hospital at some point in the future, and frankly, this goes for mental health or otherwise, whatever reason you're hospitalized for, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It doesn't make you less of a person, different of a person. It makes you struggling, and
It just shows that you're at a vulnerable moment, but it'll pass.
It doesn't define who you are.
Yeah.
100%. I agree with that 100%.